Welcome back to another video from Wooded Rancher Productions. Before we continue to show you life on our farm, we want to take you back to the beginning and give you some background on our story. It starts back in February of 1993. Our grandparents had recently returned from the mission field in Ecuador where my mom grew up. When they finished their service, they moved back stateside to Texas. Shortly after, they decided to move to East Tennessee to be closer to family. In November of 1993, they purchased an old dairy farm, and our family purchased the land next to it and started renovating the main structure to be our home. While my dad was managing a business in town, my mom was busy homeschooling my brothers and sisters, overseeing the build project on our house, and adjusting to living in the country where we didn't know anyone. We lived in the main farmhouse on my grandparents' farm until our house was finished. 7 kids living in a 700 square foot farmhouse was no small undertaking. There were definitely a few phone calls from my mom to my dad with exciting news, such as one of my brothers had almost drove our 1970 van off the bank, or that my other brother, who is highly allergic to bees, getting stung at least 12 times because he had the unfortunate experience of finding a yellow jacket's nest. There were many exciting and challenging new opportunities to learn of life on a farm. With our house finished, our grandparents moved to East Tennessee and moved into the farmhouse. I was 6 months old when we moved, and I have many fond memories of growing up in the country with the freedom of life and the great outdoors. After finally getting settled, we started learning what our new life looked like. Dairy cows, gardening, horses, pigs, playing army in the woods with my brothers, and a lot of hard work. Well, you get the point. Living on a farm is no easy task. Not only do you have the everyday maintenance on the house or the cars, but you have that on buildings, farm equipment, animals. Milking cows twice a day starting at 4 a.m. and then back at 6 p.m. every day with zero exceptions can be very tiring. If you ever do get to take a vacation, someone has to fill in to help run the operation. But we found in the country having the neighbors that we had was one of the once-in-a-lifetime experiences. Our neighbors were there for us even when we didn't know them. Shortly after moving in, they showed up one Sunday morning as we were headed out the door to church to help us plant our very first garden. Because they knew we had no idea what we were doing. They were there to teach us, to feed us kids a good old-fashioned country breakfast that you can't get at a restaurant, to grieve with us when a family tragedy struck, and to watch out for our farm when we did manage to squeeze a family vacation in. They are some of the best people we are blessed to know. We will be foreverly grateful to the neighbors like we had growing up, and some of which are still there today. There are many details to keep the operation ticking, and it takes an army to make it work. Details like feeding cows, keeping up with their health records, and making sure not to mix their milk in with the others if they are on medication, because that can ruin the whole batch. We did that until I was 9 years old, and we sold our farm and moved back to town to take care of a sick family member. My grandparents stayed on their farm well into their 80s. We spent just about every summer with my grandparents, helping them garden, playing with neighbors, playing games in the evening after supper, spending time with our grandparents, and just having the time of our lives. This helped set the stage of the importance of spending time with family. Fast forward to a few years ago, and my grandparents decided it was time to move from the work of the farm and enjoy some much needed rest due to health reasons. Their wish was to keep the property in the family and utilize the farm. My parents shared the same goal and have turned the farm into a safe haven, resetting the farm to help have the infrastructure to support a large family as our country's future is uncertain. The farm has been completely refenced, new buildings have been built, existing buildings have been updated, trees have been removed to make larger fields to support beef cattle, pigs, chickens, horses, and the same young kids that are now grown who spend their every free moment crawling around the farm to seek the next adventure are doing the same thing, but as adults. Farm equipment has been purchased. New wells have been dug on the strategic parts of the farm to keep livestock watered. The old dairy barn has been converted to a bunkhouse. A new pavilion with an apartment has been built so our large family can gather or use the space in times of need. We have essentially started over on learning to farm, raise livestock, raise kids, get away out in the country, and get back to our roots. We couldn't do this without the generations before us, our family, and our neighbors who are there to answer questions that we may have, or when we call because we banded the calves and weren't sure if we did it correctly. We are going to bring you with us on this journey as we learn and build memories with our family. We appreciate your love and support and hope you enjoy our journey as we continue to learn and grow.